We have to pay attention to bioproduction. We have to totally change our view of the scalability. These last 10 years, we've accumulated proof of concept working very well in terms of cellular therapy, for example. Well, now let's make these proof of concepts working and being accessible to the largest amount of people, of patients. But for that, I think we have to rethink our way we perceive the scalability.
Welcome back to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. I'm David Brohlman, and we're continuing our fascinating conversation with Olivier Detournay. In part 1, we learned about his unique journey from cellular biology to geophysics-inspired bioprocessing. Now we're diving deep into the technical magic behind his soft XS bioreactors. How exactly does mimicking Earth movements help grow challenging cell types? And what could this mean for the future of cellular therapy manufacturing? Stay tuned as we uncover these answers and more. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brohlman, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics and market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. And now, since you have such a simple bioreactor design, I imagine that the scale up is fairly easy because the inside of the bioreactor doesn't really change as you're going to higher volumes. So my question is, obviously you're still early on in the development, but what scales have you already tested and what are in the plans? Like, how big can you go with your technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. So far, the smallest volume we had so far, it was 150 ml. And actually, it was the hardest part of the job. And then we scaled up progressively up to 200 liters so far. We had to stop at 200 liters because our lab is small. But the bigger it was, the volume, the simpler it was for us to control the velocity, to control the quality of the steering, to control the shear stress, the shear level at least. That was 200 liter. Then we've worked hard on understanding this phenomenon, meaning how come it's easier and easier to control the quality of the mixing when you increase the volume. Again, we don't understand everything today, but the idea is very simple to understand. Actually, in a volume of 150 ml, the rotational speed, to give you an idea, is around 70 RPM. And that's the same quality of the steering in terms of velocity, shear stress, etc., etc. For a 200 liter, this is 4 RPM only. A small scale, you come from 70 RPM to a 4 RPM for a 200 liter. So you understand that the bigger it is, the smaller is the rotational speed for the same quality of steering. So what does it mean? It means that this is open access to industrialization, to the scale up, using exactly the same process.
Besides the different rotation when you're scaling up, are there other parameters that change?
Well, yeah, David, this is a good question. Actually, in our hands, what we've observed so far is that from the 3 parameters I was talking about earlier, meaning the tilt angle, the rotational speed, and the ratio height diameter, when you scale up your culture, only the rotational speed has to be adapted. In other words, when you scale up, you decrease the rotational speed for the same quality of mixing. But the two other parameters, they don't have to change. Only rotational speed.
So for now, this sounds to me that scale up is likely to be easy. Obviously, it needs to be confirmed at larger scales, but it looks like also just by looking at the system that there is potentially a game changer for much higher volume, and you can easily translate your lab's finding into a large scale.
Yeah, for us, this is the big advantage. Beside the fact that you control better the shearing force is for sure the access to scalability is for sure a huge advantage. Then you could say, well, yeah, but rotating a huge volume, this is complicated. Well, yes and no. Actually, the fact that you can decrease the rotational speed with the volume makes the principle way easier because a very slow motion of rotation. There are a lot of other technologies. I'm thinking about, I don't know, maybe a telescope. Today, there are plenty of telescopes, huge telescopes that rotates very slowly. And for example, even in a 200 liters, we were really impressed by the size of the very small motor that we use, small energy motor we use for the rotation of a 200 liter. Based on our calculation, even a huge vessel in thousands of liters, it requires only a small low energy motor.
So this sounds all very exciting. I'm curious, Olivier, where do you see your technology and your company going in the next couple of years or next 5 years?
So now we are launching on the market a first version of a bioreactor. One is called the Soft 6S. It's a very simple first version of bioreactor that the lab researcher, they have to place this bioreactor in their cellular incubator where they can control the CO2 and temperature. The next year, we should be able to launch a V2 of our bioreactor. Well, the same principle, a bioreactor that you place into an incubator, but with the online control of CO2, oxygen, and temperature and pH. And V1 and V2 at small scale level with a maximum 1 liter vessels. In 2 years from now, we'll target more valuable markets like the large biotechs, the pharma companies, engaged into clinical trials with larger volumes like 10, 50 liters, 100 liters. That will be the V3 and the V4 in 4 years from now, way larger volume in terms of thousands of liters for phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. The idea is supplying these markets. And for the rest, who knows?
So how do you, Olivier, structure your business model to balance all the innovation and development while obviously being profitable at one stage, and especially this complex landscape that's changing in the biotech?
Yeah, that's a very complex question to answer. We count on the sales of this V1 to sustain the development of the V2, V3, and V4. But for sure, that won't be enough. I'm pretty realistic, and that won't be enough because, as you know, the development of bioreactor V2 and larger scale V3 and V4, that's extremely costly. So we'll need some external funding in equity or non-dilutive for keeping going as fast as possible to keep on going for the development of the V2 and V3 and V4. Then you could say, well, just launch the V1 on the market and let's wait for getting enough funding and developing the V2 and V3. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. In other words, in another way, we have to put ourselves at the place of the customer. And I wouldn't like, for example, if my objective was to organize to settle a clinical trial as fast as possible, I wouldn't like to purchase a bioreactor V1 just to make a try without the certainty that this supplier will be able in a short time to supply me a V2, a V3, and a V4. So that's why we have to supply the V1 today to our customer with the guarantee, and we have to guarantee them that we'll be able to supply them in a very short time, also the V2, V3, and V4. Otherwise, we won't be able to penetrate the market. So that's why we need the sales on the V1, but also external funding.
It's not only a complex question. Developing a startup is complex. Let's face it. So I am wondering, Olivier, because there are some of you tuning in today, you have a brilliant idea and you want to launch your startup. So can you give some advice to all these brilliant scientists out there who want to start a company? Like, what should they do or what should they avoid?
Well, of course, it depends the company. It depends the kind of company, the sector, etc. But in our bioproduction, a very valuable market requiring massive capitals, investments, and requiring to be fast because huge actors exist on the market. I don't want to cite them, but everybody knows them. Big actors are on the market, and for sure, they are faster than us. So my only advice is to get enough funding for starting, for keeping going, and to be fast. I think that's the key, to get enough funding, to be fast, and to get the right partners, even to be faster. I'm speaking about industrial partner in a way that you can integrate your solution, your advanced technology into their existing technology to be extremely fast. That's what I would do. A year from now, back, probably I wouldn't have said that, but today I say that. To partner.
I agree that you have to be fast and yes, you need excellent partners. I love what business coach Dan Sullivan is saying, who, not how. Often we ask how we're going to do it, but actually the better question to ask is who is going to do it for us. So having the right partner is just a game changer. And here's my next question, Olivier. How do you find the right partners?
To be curious, to be open, to be curious, to meet fabulous people like I met you a few weeks from now. And technologies are great for sure. We have a lot of fun playing with technologies, etc. But meeting people for sure is the most important by far.
Yeah, it's still a people's business, actually. Business development is about people, right?
Yeah, of course. This is 90% people. Yeah, and 10% knowledge and stuff. But 90% is people, of course.
This is a big learning for me, probably for you the same, Olivier, when you're in university or a researcher in your lab. You think it's all about science, but the further I progress I realize, yeah, science is important, but it's much more about people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. When I got my PhD years ago, I thought I was smart. After years, I realized that I don't know a lot. Yeah.
Wow, this has been fantastic, Olivier. I love to see your passion and your courage to develop something that's different. So from all we have covered today, Olivier, what is the most important takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
We have to pay attention to bioproduction. We have to totally change our view of the scalability. These last 10 years, we've accumulated proof of concept working very well in terms of cellular therapy, for example. Well, now let's make these proof of concepts working and being accessible to the largest amount of people, of patients. But for that, I think we have to rethink our way we perceive the scalability.
Yes, there's definitely a lot of exciting things ahead of us. I'm really curious to see where this technology, your new bioreactor development will take you. Thank you very much for sharing your story and your insights. Olivier, where can people connect with you and potentially partner with you?
Very welcome to visit our website where we try to share a few things. They can, of course, contact us. And our website is www.celura.io. Celura, this is CELLURA.io. Okay, you are welcome to visit our website, contact us, and that'll be my pleasure to reply to your question, to your comment.
Fantastic. Smart biotech scientists. I will leave all the links in the show note. Please reach out to Olivier, learn more about the technology and also about his and his teammates' passion. And thank you once again, Olivier, for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, David, for the invitation. Thank you.
That concludes our inspiring two-part conversation with Olivier Detournay. His work reminds us that sometimes the best solutions to complex bioprocessing challenges can be found by observing the natural world around us. From cultivating difficult cell lines to scaling up production, nature-inspired approaches are opening new possibilities in cellular therapy manufacturing. Are you ready to transform your own bioprocessing journey? Develop technologies better, faster, at a fraction of the cost with our fractional CSO services. If this is of interest, book a free call with me. You will find the links in the show notes. And together, we can make your bioprocessing challenges more manageable and your path to success clearer. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.